I'm Rose from Blue Rose Creations, and in this video I'm going to compare 4 different kind of black base coats you can use to paint your Nerf blaster. I'm always curious to other brands and maybe better products than I'm used to use, so I asked my Nerf blaster painting Facebook friends what they like to use. This is the top 4 black paints I came up with, and I'm going to try them all. For me, there are 3 things that are important for a black base coat. The first thing is the adherence to the plastic surface. Plastic isn't the easiest material to paint, and I want to be able to use my Nerf blasters in a LARP and be able to let it drop a couple of times without scratching the paint off. The second thing that is important for me is the coverage of the paint. Because a Nerf blaster has a lot of moving parts, I want to be able to use as less paint as possible. Because the more paint I have to use, the bigger the chance I have to sand a lot of plastic away, because the moving parts doesn't run smooth anymore. The third thing is easy to use. I like a very nice gentle spray with not too much paint at once. I really hate it when the paint drops off my Nerf blasters. So easy to use, I like that. So I have 4 small plastic Nerf blaster parts, which I sanded earlier to test the paint on. If you use a spray can, please always do it outside or use a ventilated area, and always use a face mask, like me. The first paint I'm going to try is the black Plastidip matte coating, which you can use on, if you have to believe the makers, virtually anything. But first I have to spray a layer of plastic primer on the blaster, which I think is a pity, because that means more layers on top of the plastic. The Plastidip itself isn't very friendly in use, if you ask me. You can't really regulate how much paint you spray on it, and a lot of paint is coming out of the can at once. If you don't like a thick layer of paint on your blaster, like me, this is almost a horror movie. The second paint I will try is the Vallejo airbrush base coat. I love using an airbrush because you really have control over how much paint you spray on the blaster, and in my opinion it is easier to get to all the tricky parts of the blaster without being afraid you spray a thick layer of paint on it. Painting with this paint goes easy and smooth. I like that. The third is the Motive Vinyl Spray, which claims to absorb into the pores of rubber and plastics. Really like the sound of that. For a spray can, it sprays okay. Not too much paint at once, and it looks like the paint also goes in the tricky parts without too much paint on the parts around them. The last paint I tried was a bit hard to find, but it is a vinyl paint from the brand Jacquard, which you can use with an airbrush. If it also absorbs into the pores of the plastic, just like the Motive Vinyl Spray can claims to do, we might have a winner. I have all my hopes on this one. Everything is dry now, so we can go for the test. But the first one, the Plastidip, I'm not even gonna test it. During the painting there was such a lot of paint everywhere, and if you feel it now, it is just one thick layer of paint on it, and it just doesn't cope with my 3 criteriums, so no Plastidip for me. The second was the Vallejo airbrush paint, and I really liked the way I could use the paint in my airbrush. It wasn't too much paint at once. The coverage is good, it was really easy to use, and as a bonus I really like how matte the black paint turned out on the Nerf blaster. But now for the scratch test. So it looks pretty good, and the paint does not come off at once. I have to press pretty hard with my fingernail. The paint on the moving part, on the other hand, comes already off after a couple of movements. Not ideal. Of course, for the real use I would at least spray some varnish over it for protection, but now I'm looking for the best base coat on its own. For a spray can, the Motep Vinyl Spray was pretty easy to use. Not that much paint at once, and the coverage is also good. It is not as matte as I would like it to be, like the Vallejo black is, but 90% of the time I cover the whole black base coat with another color or rust, so that's something I can condone. I'm actually impressed. I'm really doing my best, but the paint does not come off. It actually looks like the label said, that the plastic did absorb the paint. And last but not least, the vinyl airbrush paint. My golden horse! But it isn't as golden as I hoped it would be, because with one layer of paint it didn't cover everything. If you look here, you see some green underneath the black, and I can easily fix that by painting another black layer on it. But that's the problem. It's another layer of paint, and I don't want that. I want just one layer of paint and a whole coverage. So it scores points on easy to use, but not on coverage. And if you scratch it, it pretty easy comes off. Also the moving parts, where the plastic has the most friction, in a couple of movements there is no paint left. So the conclusion. For me it's pretty clear that the Motep Vinyl Spray is the one and only winner of this test case. Although it's a little bit shiny for my taste, it answers to my 3 criteriums. I'm really happy with it and I can't wait to paint my next Nerf Blaster project with it. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and I will all see you next time. Bye!